They recorded this moment, they say. Damn, this is really epic. Damn.
And it's being reported that there's a new wave of drone attacks that have been almost continuous across different parts of Moscow. Let's take a closer look at what's happening in the Russian capital right now during the early hours of June 22. We're still on the 21st. They are already on June 22. Multiple drones were detected over the Moscow region, according to reports released by Russian authorities and local monitoring channels. The residents are, well, reacting. They are recording the attacks from Ukraine, mainly on refineries or also on fuel depots. What's going on over there? They are recording the attacks from Ukraine, mainly on refineries or also on fuel depots. What's going on over there?
Well, the mayor of Moscow, Sergei Sobryany, reported that the drone attacks began at 3 in the morning. He claims to have shot down a large part of them. However, after 5 or 10 hours, the air defense had supposedly already shot down 59 drones. Among these reports, there were also statements that only mentioned repelling the attack, which could indicate that some drones reached Moscow and were shot down within the city limits. But well, the images tell a different story. For now, there is no information about the consequences. And at the same time, we are seeing that in areas like near the Sadobon shopping center at the Moscow oil refinery and in the Kaponiega area, they have already installed air defense systems directly on a bridge. And well, this is a bit reminiscent of the attacks that happened on Thursday, June 18th, which were, well, epic, just like the Russians say, with those impressive flying covers, right?
Exactly. And well, images like this keep coming up where you can actually see one of those drones. Let's listen. Well, that's one of those drones that are already coming in, hundreds of kilometers with impressive ease for more than a week. Now, Vladimir Putin said that a strong response was expected, which, well, hasn't happened, sir. And look, it affects aviation tremendously as well, since flights, well, right now they can't, land. Obviously, it's not a safe area. And because of this, let's see if we can show it here on the map. This is the area where the planes that want to land are, inside Moscow. They try to wait, circle around, and if not, they have to go to other airports in different locations. So far, there is no official confirmation, for example, about the type of material damage. But sources indicate that air defense systems were deployed near the shopping center. And the one you mentioned, Saprodop, I think that's the name. And today it was mentioned that inside Crimea, some defense systems and radars may have been destroyed. I mean, they're already going to a level that goes beyond just the depots. And today the Kerch Bridge was also attacked. I mean, if we look at the timeline between the 21st, since we're still on the 21st, and they're already on the 22nd. And on the 22nd, well, this is more like a continuation, as if it hasn't stopped. As if there's already a bigger plan to put pressure on the occupied area
of Crimea. Exactly, and since Sunday, June 21st, reports started coming in about hacks to the personal Telegram account of the mayor of Moscow, Sergei Sobryany. After the attack, multiple messages started to appear claiming that Moscow would burn. They said Moscow will burn. Glory to Ukraine. And fundraising campaigns for the needs of the Ukrainian army were also published on the Telegram accounts of the mayor of Moscow. This started happening at 10 p.m. local time, and later the posts disappeared, according to reports. It is worth noting that the cyber attack happened on the birthday of the mayor of Moscow, who turned 68 years old today.
Just imagine, the mayor of Moscow even had his accounts hacked to send this message about Moscow burning. But look, after the recent warning given by Volodymyr Zelensky to Belarus, I think it was just the day before yesterday or yesterday when Zelensky was telling Lukashenko, no, look, move the antennas you have in Belarus, which are giving information to Russian drones so they can attack Ukraine. After that warning, Belarus has announced that it would shut down the Russian telecommunications network that was guiding drones launched against Ukrainian territories from its territory. Lukashenko doesn't want to have problems with Kyiv. He doesn't want to have problems with Ukraine. They had given him 6 days to remove those antennas. And, well, Lukashenko, following up on this, said, okay, we're going to remove all those Russian communication networks.
Exactly. Also, today it was reported that Marina Yankira, 58 years old, has lost her life. She is the head of the finance department of the Western Military District of Russia. She was the Minister of Defense. So what happened? Did she fall out of a window? During a typical Russian thing, right? During her fall, she damaged the car. And well, it's just another one of those strange cases that happen in Russia.
Exactly. I mean, it's just another one of those accidents, so to speak. Pretty well, convenient. Something is happening, but for example, a few days ago, we were talking about one of the colonels or commanders in charge of the Air Force who is in the Moscow area, which is where it has been attacked. Also, let's say, fell out of a window. Now, well, this other military officer, I mean, people who, well, in theory, it seems that Russia's supposed defense strategies seem to be failing.
Exactly. Also, today it was reported that in Sevastopol, over there in Ukraine, well, Pepe was telling you about the attack that happened at 2 different points on the Kerch Bridge, which is the one that connects Crimea with Russia. And, well, it was built by Vladimir Putin. Well, it imposes new restrictions on transportation, commerce, and public lighting due to the problems they are having with oil, since Ukraine has been attacking all the convoys that bring oil, ships, and so on. Well, it's going to happen in Sevastopol. The Russian authorities decided to implement these restrictive measures. Public transportation, supermarkets, and even large events have been affected, according to these reports. Instructions. Lighting across the peninsula will be adjusted only as needed due to the fuel situation. On June 22 and 23, gasoline will not be sold in the city. Fuel will be supplied exclusively to special service vehicles that guarantee the essential functioning of the city. That means no private vehicles, and public transit will be impacted too. For example, public transportation will operate from now on from 5 or 5:30 in the morning until 9 at night. After that, there won't be any public transportation. As for maritime connections, there won't be any ferries, only passenger boats. And starting at 3 p.m. on June 22, the public transportation service will also undergo changes during the alerts. Businesses will also have restrictions. Right now, they will only operate from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And small shops, kiosks, and pharmacies are the only ones that can set their own hours. The opening hours for cafes and restaurants are from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's it.
Look, these are restrictions that haven't been seen practically since Crimea was taken and the Russians tried to annex it. And look, this person is Marina Yakinia, or Yakina, right? She's 58 years old, the head of the Financial Support Department of the Western Military District of the Russian Ministry of Defense, and she's the one who jumped out of this window, in quotes, right? Jump. Obviously, this is already seen as a signature move by the Russians when they want to eliminate someone within the circle, especially in intelligence or the military. So, well, I mean, we were also missing the image of this official, right? Let's move on to other important matters as well. Hey, well, there's this surprising image of the protests happening in Albania. Albania, well, they're having some trouble right now because they wanted to build a luxury resort with the Trump family and other investors. A $4 billion project. An island, it's a protected area because of all the endemic species in the region. Absolutely nothing should be built there. And well, people are continuously protesting against this place now, and also even against the Prime Minister, Edil Rama, because they are very upset about this. Well, this attempt by the Trump family to force this through in Albania, just imagine that. What's also striking is what's happening over there in, what's it called, in Canada, right? Where there's also an interesting security development underway.
Right? Exactly. Canada has officially signed an agreement with Australia for the acquisition of a long-range radar system, about $2.5 billion, the cost allocated to provide coverage with an early warning radar to track possible threats that might enter Canadian airspace in the north, that is, in the Arctic. And the Canadian Secretary of State for Defense Procurement, Stephen Ford, signed an intergovernmental agreement on Monday in Canberra. Also, the country's Minister of Defense. This agreement also includes Base Systems Australia, an industrial partner of the Australian government and technology provider, which they expect will become operational in December 2029 because, well, everything military takes many years. This radar, which will serve as protection for the entire Arctic, that's what they estimate. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced that $6 billion will be invested, contributing a total of $290 million annually to the country's gross domestic product between 2026 and 2033. It is also expected to generate approximately 2,270 Canadian jobs per year during the same period.
Look, on other important issues as well, in France, in Spain, in different places, I've told you about this tremendous heat wave. Here we can see how a red alert was issued. This is today, Sunday. For us, it's still Sunday in France, with temperatures in some areas reaching 40 to 43 degrees Celsius. What you see here are the banks of the Seine in Paris, completely packed. Well, with the idea of cooling off a bit from that region, obviously. Well, yeah, a tremendous heat wave that little by little, year after year, people in that part of the world are adapting to.
And drinking alcohol outdoors was banned because of the intensity of the heat. It's impressive, isn't it, the way the heat is affecting things.
And in the end, the adaptation to this kind of heat waves. Over here, we had a pretty favorable summer. I mean, compared to how summer usually is, and being able to go outdoors despite the intensity of the heat. Cool. Soccer over here, at least here in Monterrey, was pretty pleasant, right? Compared to the previous days when we were also at 43 degrees Celsius around here, but yesterday it was 29. And even today, it was still pretty pleasant at around 29 because of the intensity of the. And also, well, there's a strong controversy between Donald Trump and Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, because these two figures have been clashing. And, well, there are several points there, right? What's going on? Exactly.
Today, Trump once again stirred up controversy against Meloni, and accused Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, of not cooperating between the United States and Iran in the defense of the United States. And the comment that was published today about the clashes between them is the following. After spending billions of dollars on NATO, Italy and its Prime Minister didn't even consider getting involved with the Islamic Republic of Iran, even though there is a nuclear threat. For decades, we have defended them. But when it really matters, they are not there to defend us. And what about the rest of the past? This issue has been growing, reportedly starting with a photo, though some claim it actually has a different origin. This annoyance has more of an economic origin. Controversy about the fact that the United States and Italy have Trump. And this annoyance has more of an origin, an economic origin. The issue of purchases, right? Which are always greater Prime Minister of the States because there has been, right? What's happening? Also controversy from the United States, which, well, makes some sense. The United States has, because there have been clashes. There are
controversy Prime Minister, and they consume a lot. There are like 250, 300 million, something like that. I mean, Italy is a country with far fewer inhabitants. You'd have to consider, well, all of Europe, right? So points and see how the deficit is there, right? In that sense. But anyway, let's move on to other important matters as well. In a moment, we'll go to another report, what's happening in Iran. We've separated it since the situations differ. Before moving to that topic, let me address other matters. And happy Father's Day to all dads. Happy day. Controversy between Trump and the Prime Minister of... Well, let us make some points, right? Let's move on. Let's talk about other interesting matters. And thank you for supporting the channel, for subscribing, for sharing. Let's move on to other topics. Por compartir, vamos a otros puntos. Hey, well, in Colombia, there is already at least an important advance in these elections where they say, well, who is winning, right? How is the situation? How is it going? Well, in this second round, Abelardo Despriella secured his presidency, a topic.
This has drawn attention. Obviously, the opposition wants to wait and see the controversy, the scrutiny, and what it is. And they are also considering challenging 33,000 voting tables. This is what Iván Cepeda, who is the opposition, says, and what it is and what they think, but also what there have been clashes. 33,000 besos de votación. And it's a topic that's gotten attention. Some people are already protesting the result, and President Petro has spoken against it. But that's President Petro for you, right? He also wants to acknowledge the controversy, and it was expected since the first round. Yes, there have been clashes. Those two have had a lot of problems.
A lot of instability. And all the institutions have already told him that, well, they don't see anything strange, nothing serious. Obviously, well, he doesn't like to lose. He doesn't like to lose. Sotraco. Well, one thing is not liking it. Another thing is controversy. Yeah, Trump clashes between the two, and well, there are even warnings that Petro might try to go further right in a plan to become an autocrat. Obviously, let's hope it's cimiento, something that also, well, should be investigated. But controversy between, caso, si hay algo que investigar, pues que sí. Pero, pues, it's been very close, hasn't it? Both the elections in Peru and those between sides have been quite divided. Although I think that even though the opposition in Peru is obviously very different, I think here the polarization here is even stronger. I mean, it's a polarization with certain points, right? Two, very different. I think here it's even more so. Like the issue, the Trump controversy, and a much more left-wing left in the case of Colombia. But anyway, in the Colombian ministry, the current difference is just 0.96%, so it's minimal with clashes between both sides.
The Trump controversy, the attention that's being given to this exact division, just like in Peru. Very much so, right? So in Peru, there are even more clashes, and well, there are points.
How he also... Well, but anyway, obviously it's tremendous. They'll tell us about it. Trump has had clashes too. Es tanto, right? Vámonos a los comentarios. To Novak's dad, to Ivan Cruz, to Edilcia, to the whole community that's joining. Good evening, Tiago, Jose as well. Big greetings. Thank you so much to the whole community, to Rosa Bamako, Novak's dad. Well, Trump controversy. The community that's joining, thank you so much for being with us. Friends from Colombia, priming clashes between points. How was this? In a few more minutes, a lot of participation. That's great. So in the end, it's good. En unos minutos más.
Muchísima participación.
Mucha participación. Well, that will be positive. Let's hope that the Trump controversy is there. Que haya certidumbre. How are things going in Peru as well? Eddie says, I'm not an expert in military, Eddie. He says, I'm not in Ukraine, a tougher, more skilled and advanced in conventional weapons. Or he says, Eddie, big greetings to you, Eddie. How have you been? Greetings to Eddie. Rosa Mabako, happy day. Thank you very much, Rosa. Rose, right? Eugenio says, to lose Pepe and his wife. Happy Father's Day. Thank you very much for your comment. I really enjoyed it a lot. We just spent some time playing Cuphead, right? We watched a movie, talked about the controversy between work and being parents, and Astrid and I really enjoyed it. In the morning, we went out for a walk. Well, obviously, we combine work and being parents, and there have been some clash different sides to it, right? For those who, well, feel, how about the topic? También con mucho estrés and I made a while ago, right? Quite some time ago to become Presidency Trump. And well, from time to time when these days come, well, they're not always like that. Very different from normal. But because there have been clashes, I mean, on this day, these days, they're not really that different from normal. And Well, the hug at the end, right? Saying Happy Father's Day. How does the typical thing go? And all those things that we haven't eaten yet, by the way, we're going to eat them until after the next one. Well, controversy has been present. It says from very early on, Colombians went out to vote calmly. The voting went on with a lot of hope. How have you been? Greetings, Garman, Edilcia Lucia, who I imagine must be in over there. Greetings, how's everything going? Who's watching from Panama? Greetings to Edil Sendeño as well.
No.
He says the controversy is starting. ¿Cómo van las cosas por allá?
Saludos a Rubén. The light. Yes, we're doing well, Prime Minister. There are clashes between two one and well, so for points.
For your family. Well, Trump. And the community that's coming, Minister, because of the whole community that's arriving. Eugenio, how are you? Hey, let's go. Topic. Live, we'll keep talking right now. Let's go now. Let's go straight to the next live segment and we'll keep talking right now. Exactly. En Qatar, exactamente.
Irán y todo esto.
Vámonos para allá.